article published in Language, Speech, and Hearing Services in the Schools. It was in 2016, and Stacy Pavelko and her colleagues found that 1/3 of the respondents in their study reported they never do language sampling. They do evaluations without language sampling, which I think is crazy. And the reason that they gave for this is language sampling is too time consuming. Well, I will tell you that one of the things we know about working with a diverse population is that when we use only formal measures, we are often over-referring students for speech and language services. So when you want to talk about time consuming is having a lot of kids on your caseload who shouldn't be there in the first place, right? When we're preparing therapy, doing therapy, communicating with parents and teachers, preparing for ARD meetings, holding meetings, tracking data, writing progress reports, all of that is way more time consuming than doing a language sample. So let's talk about language samples. It's really not that bad. I know that we all have nightmares from graduate school. We used to go back to the lab and transcribe all of the recordings that we did using the little pedal. I'm probably dating myself a bit here, but with the cassette tape that would move back and forth. That was the worst, I agree, but it really doesn't have to be that bad, right? We don't have to save it for later. At some point in my career, I realized, oh, I can actually type this while the child is saying it. Huh, what a concept. And that really works very well for me. So when I ask a child to do a language sample, I get my computer out and I start typing while they're typing. And I may not get every single word, but I get the vast majority of it. And then I can go back and just quickly fill in what I missed. So that speeds up the process tremendously. All right, so let's walk through this process. We are going to grab a wordless picture book. These are some of our favorites, and we're going to ask the child to tell a story. So I usually flip through the pages with the child and kind of point to some of the things that I think are important. And then I close the book and I hand it to them or open it to the first page and say, tell me the story. Okay, here's what it looks like. Here's one of our friends.
The frog and the boy and the dog is seeing the frog.
All right, so that's our friend Bella telling us a story. So here's another thing that we have been playing with that is so much more effective now than it used to be. This is through Google Docs, and there is a talk to text feature where you can set this up and it will type for you. Check this out.
Google has come a long way in developing technology to capture voice in different languages. I wanted to show you how to rapidly transcribe your reports or even collect a language sample from a child. You can do this in English or in another language and then show it to a native speaker to get it translated. So I'm going to click on Tools and then Voice Typing. So let's start with English. Now I am speaking in English. Ahora estoy hablando en español. Agora eu estou falando português.
All right, there's our multilingual Scott Pratt. Anyway, this is a very cool approach. It doesn't work for every child. I'll be very frank. For those who are difficult to understand, it is not that effective. But for many of our kids, it really is. And it can save us a whole lot of time setting that up and using it. Okay, so here we have our transcribed language sample. And now we are going to analyze it. So on this slide and the next slide, you will see a document that you can download from our free resources library. And this will help you to quickly analyze your sample and select areas that you need to probe further. So you're going to take your transcribed language sample and go through the checklist of story grammar components. It's organized by universal expectancies in the left column. And so these are things that we expect of children regardless of their culture and background. And then culturally specific expectancies on the right-hand side. And then you'll see in the gray column on the left, you have your age expectancies that go from top, about age 3, on down to 11-ish years of age. So having this document helps you analyze. Yes, it also facilitates your writing. So when you sit down to write, you state your strengths, the things that are checked off. Then you talk about your weaknesses, the things that aren't checked off that should be for the child's age. And you can quickly see whether they are at their age level or not. So this really helps to facilitate that narrative analysis. Now, we flip this page over. We use this as a two-sided thing. And on the back side is the assessment of fictional narratives microstructure. So here we are able to look at and describe deficits in semantics, in morphology, in syntax, okay? And then these are going to be your dynamic assessment targets, so you can look at learning potential. And these are the powerful tools that we have when we're doing an assessment that really help us get the right students on our caseload. For those of you interested in some quick approaches to dynamic assessment, we're not going to dive into that today on this short webinar, but we do have an hour-long course on it, and we'll talk about at the end about how you can access that. Okay, so once you've done this, you can go to our goal bank. Again, this is at bilinguistics.com. You find goal bank, and you open that, and you've got goals written in all the different areas that we are assessing. They're written in English and Spanish, which is really cool. And we wrote them in general form. So you'll add your criteria, your time frame, your contextual information to them and make them your goals. They're laid out by category. So you open the category you need, copy it, paste it into your report. So we've done this to really facilitate the process and speed this up. All right, so there's that piece. Now, we can also take our language sample and use it as a speech sample, right? So we can analyze sounds as well. So I'm going to show you, for our students from diverse backgrounds, how we can tell if there's a difference or a disorder. So here we have on the screen a Venn diagram, and the center part, which is red, is where the sounds of the two languages overlap. So if a child makes an error on these shared sounds, we can be concerned about that. Those are the ones that are concerning. Whereas if they make an error in the green area, which is the sounds that are unique to their second language, we are not going to worry about those sounds. All right, so let's say that these are the sounds that a Spanish speaker produces in error. We're going to next compare them to the chart for English and Spanish. So here's what this looks like. Okay, so we go and we circle the errors, and the ones that are green are Spanish influenced English errors. We are not concerned about those. The ones in the middle, however, that are errors on shared sounds, sounds that exist in their native language and English, are of concern because we wouldn't expect errors on those. Now, we also have to consider age and phonotactic constraints and things like that that we won't dive into too deeply today. But again, we'll share with you some ways you can find courses that we've produced to really dive into that deeper. Okay, and then we use the same process for other languages. So here's an example of a Venn diagram for Mandarin. Here's one for Russian. And all of these templates can be found on our evaluation resources page. These are free resources that you can just download straight from our website.